Assalamu alaikum. Hi, Oracle Reiki spiritual healer. And so we are talking about the consequences of associating other things with God. We are talking about those people, those chosen ones, or those leaders who are supposed to be leading the people aright. And what are the consequences that we are seeing upon our people because we have been led astray? There is a division between us of whether to accept the truth or not. There is a division because there are a lot of the men who want somebody to sacrifice themselves for them so that they do not have to fight, so that they do not have to stand in their position. They have been, led astray by misinformation, by the entity, by the colonizers that they want to align with. And there is a consequence for that. And again, I have been in Surah An-Anal, and I can't even get it out. So you guys correct me in the comments. Surah An-Anal, the B, that's 16, 33 through 35, where we have the consequences of associating other things, other beings, human beings, idols with God. Those people who want to, be looked up on as being supreme. And all that matters to them is if they have the best car, the best house, if they have, the best clothes on, and they were readily available, sell their own people into slavery in order to protect their own selves. They would take bribes. We've discussed that. And they would, do things atrociously up on the earth and attack the most vulnerable among us in order to, be with their entity, in order to have pride and arrogance up on the earth. So, I wanted to bring this to you because when the consequences are upon us, you have to be with your entity. You have to go with your entity. God is going to judge between you because you have not stood in your power. These are these people who are supposed to be the leadership in the spiritual places. They are under spiritual judgment. Those people who have the knowledge of what the books say, and they have applied it in order to be extravagant on the land, in order to harm the most vulnerable, in order to sacrifice, a lot of the women for many generations. And so now we have, divine intervention, and a lot of these consequences are falling on these men, and we understand why. We understand why they're passing away in, these medical facilities by themselves. We understand why they are, having multiple health problems. You have a lot of women too who have, backed up these men who are a part of the patriarchy, who are, who have, given themselves over into the entity with these men to be superior in places, to look down on people, who do not want to, dress appropriately, who walk in pride and arrogance on the earth with these men so that they can be in control of spaces where they can harm people, where they have harmed people, where they have harmed their own family members, where they have thrown their own family members out of their household, off of the land, because they will do anything. They will absolutely do anything to have proximity to their entity, to their master, to their colonizer, and to the enslaver. And so, since you're going to be associated with these people on the day of judgment, when God questions you, Call on your partners. Call your partners. Call your God partners. And this is what Surah An-Nahl is telling you, that you're going to be grouped together with your partners and thrown into a constricted place. And I just wanted to make it quite clear to you, concise, so that you have an understanding of who is the leadership. It's to anybody whom God gives the leadership. But it is majority on the persons that he has given the strength in order to carry this word. You do not see other communities of people where they have to get on their women about, how they dress. And I have to say this all the time, to dress modestly. And it is because we have our leadership who have given themselves over into this type of entity. You know what I'm saying? So we have this understanding that we have to stand up. We have to stand up in the places where their leadership has failed at. In the communities, in our business practices, in our dealings. And we have to call these types of narcissist behaviors out in the medical profession, who are allowing, a lot of our people to be unalive, to have their organs harvested. We have to call them out. In these spiritual narcissists and these religious narcissists, who would readily tell you and put you in competition with, the most vulnerable. Who will put you in competition without a plan. Okay, where you don't have to have a plan, where you feel you don't have to do anything. So we have these understandings that you have to do something when God has called you and given you authority on earth. The persons that he has given, the chosen one, men and women, they are the ones to come up with the plan. They are the ones to distribute, God's justice. They are the ones to carry God's mission. And that is just as the way that it is. We cannot change the decree of God. It's very simple. It's very simple to me. So we have here in Surah An-Nahl, and I have been talking to you about this because this is the book that I have been in all week. We don't want to, hurt people's feelings. People run away from me when, you start talking to them about associating something else with God. And what is the wrath and punishment for that? So we have here in 16 and 34, so they were struck by the evil consequences of what they did and were enveloped by what they used to ridicule. So if you have a dislike because, you have to be in competition with your female counterpart, then you also have to understand, what is it and who is it that puts you in competition with the females? Why is it that you would want to harm and abuse the most vulnerable among you, the females? And I'm not saying, I'm not telling you something that the book has not said to you. I'm not being hard on you. I'm being stern with you so that you have an understanding, those women and those men who have been pretenders, who are narcissists in our community, in our midst, in our homes. They are the ones that will, that are going to be, asked these questions on the day of judgment in the spiritual realm. They're going to be asked some questions about what they were worshiping, who they were worshiping, who they were following. And it's definitely not, as we can see, those who are following the holy books, the word of God, the laws, who know the laws, who distribute the justice, who tell the truth. A lot of us is in trouble because we don't want to tell the truth. We want to dress it up in order to, get that bonus. in order to get that money, okay, to get that bag. So we have these understandings that we as the chosen ones have to believe in God. We have to submit to God's will when he tell us to do something, when he call us. We have to make sure that we are in alignment with what God is saying, or we suffer, spiritual condemnation. We suffer spiritual afflictions, just like Paul. Just like Paul suffered those spiritual afflictions because he was divinely, chastised. And when you're divinely chastised with your health, and this is what we have been seeing in the healthcare, department as caregivers in the medical professions, that we see a lot of the males in there alone, passing by themselves, because they are spiritually afflicted because of what they were charged with. They were charged with the leadership. They were charged with the protection and the provision for their families and their women. And they have the nerve to get on social media and say that it was the women, because we haven't been there for 30 years. And just look at you. So this is why, a lot of these types of afflictions cannot be removed from you, because you told the truth on yourself. And you are under divine chastisement. Anything else, God will allow. Just like in the Holy Quran and the Holy Bible, God forgives for anything. But when you have told the truth on yourself, and you have continued to walk in that, then you have to be judged by what you have been doing for, 50, 60 years against your own people, against your own family. You were right in alignment with the entity to addict your own people to certain drugs. You were in alignment to sell your women and your young girls into bondage, and some of you still are, okay, into sexual servitude. Okay, this is the control that you want, instead of being in alignment with what God said and standing against the entity. You are a part of it, and this is the cause of your afflictions, a lot of you. So I hope that you receive this message, that some afflictions can be removed unless they are divine chastisement. So I want you to read 2 Corinthians. I think it's 12 through 17. Hold on, let me look at my notes before we close this out. 2 Corinthians 12, 7 through 10. Read that in the Holy Bible so that you'll understand what divine chastisement is. You can't run to a spiritual healer. You can't even, that's why I say I can give you my vendor. But you can't run to God. You can't use what God has given you to cleanse negative energy, his herbs, his roots, and you haven't cleansed out the disease in your heart. So I hope you received this message. Please, like, share, and subscribe to me. Book your one-on-one sessions. You can book your life coaching sessions or your video chat sessions. Please leave a comment for me. Donate to my channel. I'm High Oracle Reiki Spiritual Healer. Assalamu alaikum.